Welcome to BFC Live, the daily video and podcast series of Business of Cannabis. BFC Live highlights the company's brands, people, and trends driving the global cannabis sector. Learn more at businessofcannabis.ca. Our BFC Live guest today is Lisa Bigioni of Stok'd Cannabis. Now on her second series of cannabis retail store openings, Lisa will share her experience and what she's learned. Lisa Bigioni, thank you for being here bright and early on a Wednesday morning.
Thanks for having me, Jay.
We've connected with you before, and we will connect with you again a little bit later today. You are, of course, the proprietor of Stok'd Cannabis in Scarborough, but your history in cannabis retail goes all the way back to the first lottery in Ontario.
It sure does.
You were a lottery winner.
Yeah, what a wild ride it's been since then.
It is a wild ride. And you, for those that don't know, although I imagine that most people do, you won lottery round one. You opened a store in Niagara Falls, near Niagara Falls.
In Niagara Falls, yeah.
In Niagara Falls. And I was there, so I should know that I was in Niagara Falls. I think it was one of my first legal purchases because we couldn't go here. So thinking about your marathon between then and now, which was both a marathon and a sprint. Like, how are you feeling now, having gone through sort of two waves of opening stores?
Well, I'll tell you, Jay, my first experience was until leading up to opening day was the most stressful time of my life. And I know some people are probably like, what, cry me a river, but it just was. And so, I partnered with Choom. Choom were fantastic. Choom had the expertise. They already had a design, they've had space, all of that stuff. But from opening day onward, it was wonderful because all of that was behind me. And the stress was driven by my concern that I was going to be disqualified. So it wasn't driven by anything else except for the AGCO, quite frankly, or the, going against regulation in some form without even really realizing it.
Yeah.
And so this time, the lead up to store opening, which only happened a couple of weeks ago, has been so much fun because I know the AGCO now. I kind of understand better how they operate. I'm not as stressed out and worried that they're going to cut me off at the knees at any point. And so, while Choom brought a whole bunch of expertise last time, I got to do all of that myself this time. So the design, the name, the design, the branding, merch, all of that stuff. And so it's been really, really fun this time.
It's refreshing to hear all those things. Not that it's not stressful now, but different types of stresses, and you knew they were coming. When we talked, I honestly don't know when it was. My memory of time is all washed away over the past year. But you talked about the importance of staff and the importance of bringing in professional people who knew what they were doing and could be along with you for the ride and provide real honest feedback, but also manage things in the store. Mm-hmm. Is that still sort of how you're looking at it, even in the context of COVID now, but hopefully not COVID forever, like how you launch, build, grow, settle into a store?
Yeah. So we actually, we've partnered with the store manager from Choom. He's moved to Toronto and is now managing our Stok'd store, but actually will be taking on a bigger role because we'll have more than one store. And so we already had a fantastic relationship. He, grew he's a legacy guy. He knew the product really well. And he had been in retail, for different parts of his career. So he was a great fit for Choom, and he's just an even more phenomenal fit for Stok'd, because as we add on store number 2 and store number 3, and who knows what else, he's more than able to take on those challenges. And so, yeah, those relationships and the ability to rely on people like that, it's really what helps you sleep at night.
We can all use a little bit more of that. That and cannabis will help.
Yeah.
Luckily, we're talking about both. I want to ask you one question because we have this event coming up starting at noon today. And we are talking to a lot of people who are either in the queue, thinking about opening a store, early days, and the event is focused on like foundational technology. So like, what tech stack are you putting in your store? Like, what is your advice to folks who are in this sort of thinking about it to startup phase, pre-open? Like, what are some words of wisdom from you who've done this now twice and soon to be 3, 4, and 5 times? Like, what do you know now that you wish you knew then?
Um, I'd say that, so first of all, I know the products or the IT that I definitely wanted to use again, and the IT that I didn't want to use again. And I'd say that there are a lot of, and we've, because we're doing this on our own now, we're, looking at SMS texting capability and SEO, work that we're hiring out. And I didn't get involved in that in the first store. But I'd say there are a lot of people out there that are really great salespeople. They can, certainly talk the talk, and it all looks amazing. But I would suggest that people speak to other stores that are using the tech. We did that when we were choosing our POS for this store. We did that when we were choosing Alpine IQ we're using for our SMS texting and loyalty program. We're using Greenline, which got fantastic reviews from the folks, the other stores that we spoke with. We're using Merco because we had a fantastic relationship with them at our first store, and we're happy to bring them over to this one. But there's no harm done in calling up another store who's using one of the tools and ask them how it's going.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really, and I think what many don't understand who are sort of opening up a store, think about opening a store, is how integral these components become to your business, both from a operations perspective. So, selling product and making money on selling the product, but also compliance, and also operations, and also staffing and training and team, and all those things are super critical to making sure that everybody's on the same page and running it. And I just, that's what we hope to impart later today. So that's helpful to sort of think about. I want to ask one question, because your store now is in Scarborough. You've opened stores both in Scarborough and Niagara Falls. Like, how do you know what types of people you're going to be serving, and how they will respond when they come in the door, even though they haven't come in the door yet? And Scarborough, like, how do you keep yourself nimble enough to be responsive to the people that are coming in, I guess, is my question.
Well, first of all, I don't think you really do know until you actually open the door. But we did do a lot of research. We're in, Scarborough, if you know it at all, it's kind of a big area of land with a lot of little strip plazas in it. And, they're kind of, a lot of them are pretty nondescript. They're either super long or super short, and they have a convenience store and a dry cleaner and, whatever else, a spa, let's say, a spa.
Well put.
Yeah. So, and by the way, the plaza we're in has all 3 of those things. And hopefully it's got a Tim Hortons, which drives traffic. So, sorry, Jay, I forget the question.
No, just how you, like, understanding who's going to come to your store, and how to be nimble enough to actually change then you actually really learn.
Yeah, so we did a lot of research, and that, again, that's quantitative research, but I don't think you're really going to know until people start coming in. What we also did initially, before we were well open, we put a sign up in our window from the day that we applied. We hadn't done our branding. In fact, Stok'd was even spelt differently back in the early days. But we put a sign up to let people know right away that we were coming. It was kind of more for the competition, to let people know that we kind of staked this area, put a stake in the area. And I've been on all of the Facebook groups in all of the neighborhoods and said, hey, we're coming. Does anyone have any questions? Is there anyone, can I help anyone with anything? We're hiring. Is anyone looking for a role at our store? And through all of that, you kind of get to know, also just listening on those Facebook groups, right? Where, I live in the neighborhood of a notorious Facebook group, neighborhood Facebook group. And so I'm pretty familiar with all the chatter that goes on in those kind of groups. And so you learn a lot, right? You learn a lot about people there. And so, we did that sort of thing. And, I'm really, really happy now that we've opened. with the people that have come to the door. They're all excited that we're there. It seems like we get a lot of positive feedback. So, lucky for us.
Well, it's lucky, but it's also you're a good operator and you know what you're doing, and that I think means a lot. And we appreciate you sharing your thoughts now this morning and later today at our noontime program. Lisa Bigioni, thank you so much for making time today. We wish you all the luck with Stok'd, and we can't wait to see you in person at Stok'd, hopefully in March.
We look forward to having you. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Thank you for joining us on B of C Live today. We're able to do what we do thanks to our ongoing partners, including Cannabis at Work, Cannabis Benchmarks, Can Delta, Headset, Gallagher, and Torque and Maine.